Okay, good morning. We are doing the candles of Havdalah. Share sponsored for Shemut ben ציון, Raubin ben Shaindel, and Orit bat Rachel Esther. So we are Reish Sadi Chet. Aleph. Mevarich al haner borei mirei ha'esh im yesh lo. If you have a fire, or a candle basically, with a flame, then you say the bracha of borei mirei ha'esh. And why is it plural? Because there are many different shades of fire. Blue, red, orange, yellow, white. Okay? So we know what's the reason, because it was on Motzei Shabbos that God had Adam discover how to make fire. Right? It was sticks and stones, you rub them together, and there you go. So I dafka on Motzei Shabbos, and only Motzei Shabbos. One Saturday night passes, we no longer say Borei Mir Ha'esh, you lose it until the next week. Okay? V'ein tzarich lachzor acharav. But you don't have to make yourself crazy for it. You don't have it, no big deal. It's not a chiyuv, it's just it's a plus to say it, and it's to say it with Havdalah, ideally. Okay, we'll see. It could be said any time at night, even not during Havdalah. L'chatchila we say it during Havdalah, but it could be said any time, before or after. Okay. Let's keep reading. V'hani milu Motzei Shabbos. That's only Motzei Shabbos. Aval Motzei Yom Kippurim, yesh omrim shemachazer acharav. If it's Motzei Yom Kippur, some say no, it's really important. And you should put an effort to say the bracha. Not just if it's convenient. Okay. Alright. And the difference for Yom Kippur, the reason why we say it for Yom Kippur is we want to make a strong heker to show that on Yom Kippur, even though it's a Yom Tov, and Ochel Nefesh is not allowed. Every other holiday, Yom Tov, you're allowed to use fire and to cook with it, and obviously it's not from scratch, at least in Darabanan, but you're allowed to use fire. On Yom Kippur you can't use it at all. Haga, yesh, so therefore you want to use, and that's why you want it to be a fire that was, for Yom Kippur it's important, that it was there throughout all of Yom Kippur, and it's to show that while it was on Yom Kippur, you didn't use it for Ochel Nefesh. And so typically you use a fire that was there from Erev Yom Kippur. We'll see when it comes to Shabbos, you're allowed to use on Shabbos a candle that was lit already from Friday. That's not a problem. It doesn't have to be a brand new flame on Motzei Shabbos. But that's the only time to say the bracha is on Motzei Shabbos. Haga. If you don't have a cup of wine to say Havdalah, so we learned you don't say Havdalah. If you don't have a cup of wine, you just wait. You say Baruch HaMavdil, those words. You say it in Shemona Esrei, but you don't say the bracha, the full bracha of Hamavdil, Baruch Ata Hashem, Hamavdil, with Hashem's name, Hamavdil min Kadosh Echol. Okay, so in a case when you can't say Havdalah, Kishiro'eh ha'esh mevarech alav. V'chen be'besamim. As we just mentioned, the besamim and the eish are not completely kashur, intertwined, or dependent on Havdalah. You can say it. Right now you don't know when you're going to get a cup of wine. Maybe in a few hours, it may be the next day. You don't know if you're going to get it. So then you can go ahead and say eish or besamim right now. Whereas the gvul, if you know you're going to get one in a few hours, so then maybe it's probably better to wait. You can do whatever you want. It's probably better to wait until Havdalah, but you don't have to. Okay. Okay, bet. Mitzvah min muvchar levarech ala avuka. Ideally, one is supposed to say the bracha of Havdalah, the fire that we use, it should be called an avuka, right? I think it's commonly translated as a torch. Halachically it means more than one wick, or more than one source. And the pashtut, it means, many poskim say, by definition, the flames have to be touching. This is not 100% clear, or questionable if it's necessary, but many say that it is necessary for the two flames to be touching. The wicks don't have to be touching, the candles don't have to be touching, but the flames have to be touching. Okay, v'yesh mi she'omer she'im ein lo avuka tzarich lahadlik ner acher letzarich havdalah chutz min'ner miyuchad laha'ir b'bayit. And so really, Me'ikar Adin, you're allowed to use a single candle, like a single Hanukkah candle, a single Shabbos candle. It's got one wick, and there's no two flames. According to halacha, it's 100% mutter to say Havdalah on such a candle. It's only a mitzvah min a muvchar to use an avuka. Now, so if you're in a case where you don't have a double candle, you're not holding two candles together, so then, what do? You just say it on one. And so some have the chumrah that the candle that you're using for Havdalah should not be the same candle that you have already lit for you to get light with and that you're using all evening for your house. Obviously in those days they used candles, so that was a common occurrence. Now it's a different ballgame. Okay, so lechatchila you should light a separate candle. That's what's on, right? And we're going to see, the main thing is the candle has to be supplying light. So, and it lit for that reason. But it was to light up the whole house. So technically it's okay. Certainly b'diavad. Question is, lechatchila, should you light another one for a kavod of Havdalah? Okay, so we know that one candle's okay. Mikar adin, 100% okay. You can use a single match. You can use a single lighter. Okay. Haga. V'nir sheyesh lo shtei pitilot mikre avuka. And once it has two wicks, that's okay. So the Mishnah Berurah points out, he explains, if you have two wicks in a bowl of oil, that's fine. And some also point out, lechatchila we use, based on Magen Avraham quotes theory, that basically, lechatchila it should be wax. Okay? If you have two wicks that are in one bowl of wax, and the two wicks come out together, so the Mishnah Berurah calls that one wick for all intents and purposes. It's not called an avuka. In order for it to be avuka, obviously it's two wicks. But the point is to be a din of avuka, you want to have a bigger light. That was the mitzvah min ha-muvchar. It should be a greater ki'ilu, a bonfire. Like that would be even, in other words, more honorable. So therefore, it has to be, the fire, for it to be bigger, has to be a little bit more spread apart. That's the way the halacha was designed, keeping it simple. It means at least two wicks that are separate when you have the flames touching. So if you have a candle, he points out, out of wax, but at least there's a drop of wax in between the two wicks, that's good enough. Or two wicks that are not touching in a bowl of oil, or like we said, wax, that's fine. What's most common nowadays, when you buy a Havdalah candle, it's made out of completely two, strands of wax, however you call it, two separate candles that are intertwined. So that's for sure not a problem, because all the wicks are all completely separate. What you do have as an issue, according to some or many, is if you have these Havdalah candles, and sometimes, especially if they get a little older, sometimes you have two wicks that are coming out that stay on fire, or sometimes the middle ones don't work anymore, and then you have the two flames are not touching each other. So you're holding up two flames, but they're not touching each other. So that's we'll leave it as a tzarachin if that's okay. Yeah, it's discussed. Okay, I think that covers. Okay, so let's go on. We're in Gimel, right? Gimel. No hagim listakel bechapot hayadayim uvat sipornayim. So there's a custom to, when you say Havdalah, to look at your fingers and your nails. Okay, so we mentioned a couple of reasons yesterday. We're going to see another one. B'pashtut, the idea is, and we're going to see, you'll understand when we read Daled, that you need to be benefiting from the light, or at least able to be benefiting from the light. Really, you just have to be able to benefit from the light. You don't have to be benefiting. It's not like a bracha on eating food, but you need to be that close. And when you're looking at your fingers and nails, you're demonstrating that you can, and confirming that you're able to get benefits. So that's good. So let's keep reading. Haga. V'yesh lirot b'tzipernei yad yamin. Ideally, look at the nails of your right hand. V'lechazakos b'yad samol. Because you always like to do with your right hand, which the ikar part of the center part of the mitzvah that you're doing right now. So right now you're concentrating on Boremiyar Eish, so therefore you should be using your right hand to look at the fire. Right? You look at the nails of the right hand. But You don't want to put down the cup of wine completely because it's still part of Havdalah, so you keep it up in your left hand. Obviously, if you run out of hands, it's another story. And b'diavad, you don't have to be holding it, but here you go. V'yesh lichpat ha'etzba'ot letoch hayad. And ideally, the Ramah says, how do you do it? You fold over your fingers, so that you're looking at letoch hayad into your palm of your hand. Sha'az, what are you looking at? Roeh batzipornayim. You're looking at your nails. You're looking on the outside of the back side of your fingers. The point is, you could be looking at the part of your palm of your hand. That's fine. Some like to look at the lines. Okay. But the point is that he's talking about is the Ramah says you don't want to be looking at the underneath, the inside of your fingertips, where you have all your the fingerprints. You don't want to be looking at the fingertips from the inside. You only want to be looking at the fingertips from the outside. And he gets this from the Zohar. He doesn't explain. I don't think the Mishnah Berurah or others, some explain. But anyways, the Kitzer, just as for whatever understanding I have, if you look at the Zohar, it explains, or some of the Mefarshim explain, because the fire resembles, we're getting through this fire Eish, and when we say the bracha, we are help channeling kochos of Kedusha, or He'ara of Shabbos, into the week. And the week is, it's the weekday, or Malchus, and the fire is Eish Malchus, and the fire is, whatever, the kochos that we're bringing from the fire, it's higher, and it goes lower down to the level of the week. We're trying to bring the Kedusha of Shabbos into the week. And the backhand and the nails, the klipa, represents lower levels of Kedusha, of Kochos in the world. And the inside of the finger, the inner side, represents Atzilus, or higher levels, or Chesed, or higher levels of Kedusha. And it's not really befitting the light of Kedusha that we get from the candle, or from Havdalah, or the Kedusha of Shabbos that we're getting, that's coming into the week. Basically it's on an in-between level, between what represents the inside of the fingers and the backhand of the fingers. Okay. So, anyway, Yesh Layanot Bifnim. Dalit. Ein mevarchin al haner ad she'otu le'oro. So the halacha says, when do you say the bracha of looking at the candle? You have to look at the candle. You have to see the flame. Well, here it's saying you have to get benefit. You have to be, when you see the light, you have to be in a position where you can get benefit. Lav dafka you mamish get benefit. Okay, perhaps you need to. I don't think so. Okay, so the point is you need to at least be close enough. Dahainu, what does that mean? Ad she'otu le'oro. Sheyes samuch lo. You have to be close by. Close enough, bichdei sheyuchal lahakir bein matbea medina zol and matbea medina acheret. You have to be close enough that if you put up two different coins, maybe two different coins, I don't know if it has to be from two different medinas, but the idea is you have to be close enough that you could get benefit, that if you were to hold up two coins, you can see the difference, maybe heads and tails, of a quarter we're familiar with. But anyways, that's the idea, that you have to be close enough. You need to see we're going to see, there's two requirements. You need to be close enough to get the benefit, and you need to actually see the flame. Those are the two things you need, and then you're good enough to say the bracha. If you're far away, and you can see a flame going, you know that there is a flame, you can't say the bracha. Or if you hear someone saying it, you're not yotze. You have to later on light your fire yourself and do it again. If you can see the flame from a distance, but you're too far to get any benefit, then it also doesn't count. You're not yotze. You should go ahead and repeat it. Okay. Hey. Ein mevarchin al haner shalosh shavat mimalachat avera le'afuke or shehudlak lechayo lechola. So the candle that we use Friday night has to be, Motzei Shabbos, the candle from Motzei Shabbos for Havdalah, has to be from a fire that was not used be'isr on Shabbos. It has to be that it was lit before Shabbos, or was lit after Shabbos, there was no avera done with it, or It could be that it was lit during Shabbos if it was mutter to light during Shabbos. Either you had a goy do it for you for if it's not pikuach nefesh, or a Jew lit it because it is pikuach nefesh, like for a chay or a choler. Correct? Okay. Then it's okay. Exactly. Because it could be lit on Shabbos if it was done beheter. That's right. But if it was done be'isr, that's the problem. Since it wasn't done for an avera, you're allowed to say a bracha on it. But even if a goy is not chayiv in Shabbos, this is a little strange, but this is the halacha. Even if, or counterintuitive, I don't know if I'd say strange, even if a goy lights a candle on Shabbos, then you can't use it unless he did it for a tzara chola. Because if a Jew would have lit in it, in other words, it's not a light. Here, lo shavat melechat avera mikre. Because we want a candle that was used that's not in the form of an avera. Again, it wasn't mamish an avera done with this flame, but it has the status of it's not a fire that was heter for Shabbos. Right? That's kfara from Chazal. Ve'ein mevarchin al ur shel avodah zara, and we don't use a flame of avodah zara. Okay. Just to point out. Now, in general, again, it really depends. Right. So, in general, it's just as a general rule. We assume if you see a candle right after Shabbos by a non-Jew, that it was lit by the non-Jew on Shabbos. So a stam candle, Motzei Shabbos, and again, it depends on the scenario, but it's, generally speaking, if it's a candle, Motzei Shabbos, we assume he lit it on Shabbos, and therefore you cannot use it. Depends, obviously, if it's a restaurant and they only open up at night, then you can assume otherwise. So anyways, whatever. So then even if a Jew, we mentioned, even if the goy did it for himself, we still have this akpara not to use it. Okay. So, the Mishnah Berurah points out, when we say it's a candle of avodah zara, if the source, the nutrients, the wax, the oil is aser of avodah zara, then the shalhevet that comes from it, it's continuation of it, and then we say you're not allowed to get benefit from it. But that's primarily, it's not exactly necessarily mi'ikar adin, unless it's really only mi'ikar adin if it was lit for avodah zara, then you're not allowed to, and that's only while it's still attached. But if you take a Jew goes to that fire and takes another flame from that shalhevet, then that's okay. And the shalhevet itself, we say ein bo mamish. It's not okay. Not so common. Anyway, Pri Megadim points out just better to stay away from it. Okay, let's go to Vav. Oved kochavim shehidlik b'motzei Shabbat miYisrael. So a non-Jew, he lights it on Motzei Shabbos from a Yisrael. No problem. Because assuming you're watching it and it's not done in a party of a goyim and he didn't do a l'shem avodah zara, it's not a problem. If a Jew lights it on Motzei Shabbos and then the goy takes it from him, or vice versa, or Yisrael me'oved kochavim, that's also not a problem. Mevarchid alav, no problem. If a goy lights it on Motzei Shabbos himself, so it happens to be a little bit of a chloket, okay? Aval oved kochavim shehidlik me'oved kochavim ein mevarchin alav. This is no machloket. If a non-Jew lights it on Motzei Shabbos, and then he lights, and then another non-Jew takes it from him and extends it to another candle, then we don't. Really, there wouldn't be no problem. The issue is, it's based on, do you make a gzera? Do you make a gzera? Here, you would say a gzera. The question, if a non-Jew lights it himself on his, that's a machloket if you make a gzera or not. Here, it's because it's a goy to a goy, you're going to make a gzera that you might come to use from a goy who lights it on Shabbos itself. Just to avoid having it lit on Shabbos itself. So, in this case, since it's a gzera l'gzera, again, not a very common scenario, but then b'diavad, it would be, your bracha would work, you'd be yotzei b'diavad. At least that's one of the main opinions brought down. Okay, I think we'll go on. ובמוצאי יום הכיפורים הם מברכים על נר שילוח ישראל מאור הכוכבים. And a Jew who lights it from a non-Jew on Motzei Yom Kippur, right, we assume was not there from before Shabbos, and therefore you can't use it. All right, we have to, for Yom Kippur, Motzei Yom Kippur, you want to make sure it was there all Shabbos, all Yom Kippur, Ner Shabbos. So therefore you can't light it from somebody else on Motzei Shabbos, unless you know it's from a Jew and you can rely on him that it was there all Yom Kippur. Okay. Zayin. Hayohalech chutz lakach v'ra'a ur. So scenario is walking Motzei Shabbos. You didn't hear Havdalah yet, and you're walking in the forest, and you're coming close to a city. You're traveling. You didn't bring the stuff you need for Havdalah, but you just want to say ha'esh, b'ramir ha'esh. So if you see fire from a city, what's the halacha? Im ruban goyim. If it's mostly non-Jews, ein mevarchin alav. You can't say the bracha m're'esh. Because we assume maybe it was lit on Shabbos. Im ruban Yisrael. But if most of them are Jewish, or afilu mechza al mechza, or half the inhabitants are Jewish and half are non-Jewish, so then mevarchin alav. And obviously, I think we're assuming from, because that's otherwise some non-people, unfortunately, some of them they light candles on Shabbos. So we're talking about from. So if even half and half, it's good enough. Mevarchin alav. So some explain why even half. Because as I said, maybe it's mostly Yisrael, and even if you're going to tell me it's mostly non-Jewish, but maybe the goy lit it on Motzei Shabbos. We don't know that a goy lit it on Shabbos. We're just assuming to be on the safe side, or chazaka maybe, but it's not. So therefore, when you have a filo mechza al mechza, you can. Okay. Chet. If you have a fire that comes out of sticks and stones, you could say a bracha on it. But if you make a fresh fire on Motzei Yom Kippur, we said already, you don't say a bracha. Tet. Gechalim bo'ara kolkach. She'ilu machnis kesam b'neihem hu nidlak mevarchin alayhem v'ashasuyim leha'ir. Let's say you have shiny coals, burning coals, so they are giving off some light, but you don't necessarily have a real flame over here. Since if it's a situation where they're burning hot, and if you were to put a little piece of wood in between them, it would just go up in flames, that's good enough, because you're seeing the coals, and they're hot, and it's good enough. And that's assuming that these purpose of the coals are not to warm the house, but to light up the room. Because it has to be, I think we mentioned, the purpose of the fire that we're using has to be for light. Not for kavod, we're about to talk about that quite a bit, and not for the sake of warming up. It has to be for light. Okay, so let's see this inside it. Yud. Ur shel kivshan b'tchilat sreifat halevenim ein mevarchin alav she'az eino asur leha'ir. If it's a fire, you're inaugurating your new furnace. And the purpose of the fire is to, it could be for cooking. It could be for completing the process of making your furnace. So then it's not done to light up the house. You do not say, B'ramir Eish on such a fire. But afterwards, after you already used it, as asur leha'ir mevarchin alav. And once you already used it, so then, if the fire is also it could be a dual purpose, but if it's also to light up your house, right? Again, only until recently we have light bulbs in our house, so it's a different world. So they used to use that to light up their house as well. Yud Aleph, Ner Beit Knesset. Now what about the candles in a shul? So again, the basic yesod, again, it's very simple. If the candles in the shul, or any candles you have, are to light up, to give you light to read from, then you say the bracha. Even if it's not solely for the purpose of Havdalah. But if it's to give honor to the shul, to kavod to the shechina, then you don't. So that's really what the question is. And again, in our days, generally speaking, any candle that you light, it's kimat always only the kavod of the Beit Knesset, because we have light bulbs. No one lights a candle or a little candle by the ner tummy to get light in the room. In general, every case can be done by its own. And you can also, Mishnah Berurah and others point out, you can just, if you have a candle that was done for kavod, you can just extinguish it and then relight it for a second. And when you relight it, right now you're having in mind it's for Havdalah. That's fine too. Doesn't matter that the bowl is generally for kavod. You can relight it for the purpose of also doing Havdalah. So I'll just read that inside. Ner shel beit knesset im yesham adam chashuv mevarchin alav. If there's an important person in the shul, so in that case, we assume it wasn't just lit for the kavod of the shul, it was lit for this important person, because he's always coming to learn. We want to make sure he always has light on to learn from, or whatever he's doing there. V'im lav, and if not, im mevarchin alav, because then we assume it's only for kavod, and you can't say the bracha of Havdalah, of Eish. V'yesh omrim behefech, and some say, no, it's an exact opposite explanation in the Gemara, but really, it really just depends on each case by itself. So, v'im yesh shamash she'ochel sham mevarchin alav. For example, let's say there's a shamash, that's where he eats. I don't know, where he counts the money for the shul. Whatever he's doing, he always uses that same light, not only for kavod for the shul, but for himself. So then that's okay. You say the bracha, because it's also used for light. And not when you have a bright light though coming from a bright moon, because again, in those days, if there was a bright moon shining through the window, they wouldn't waste the candle and they wouldn't use it, and he didn't use it at all. He got more light from the moon, whatever. So, anyways, really depends on the situation. Yud bet. Ein mevarchin al ner shel meitim. We don't say bracha on a candle that's specifically for meitim. Let's say you're carrying the body, if there's a custom to have a candle. Also a ner for yurtzeit. If you have a ner that's only lit for yurtzeit, you also don't use that for Havdalah, unless you have in mind it's for both. That's another story. To also be meir, but anyways, generally speaking, we wouldn't use it. She'eino asur la'ayir, but if it's a candle for meitim, it's just meant to give off light. It's not meant to give off light. Hilkach meit shayu molichin lefanav ner ilo hotziu bayom. So we're talking about a light that you would have lit anyway, if it's day or night. Even if you brought him out, you did the levaya during the day. In this case, it came out at night, but you're not doing it to see, you're doing it for the kavod. So you don't say bracha on it. Okay, we'll finish tomorrow.